I told my boyfriend not to be jealous of my best friend, but when he found us in bed, his revenge ruined me. Okay, so I'm writing this because I literally have nowhere else to turn, and I am just sitting here in my crappy studio apartment that smells like the Chinese restaurant downstairs, wondering how I became this person. I'm Mia, female 23, and I just lost the best guy I've ever dated because I'm apparently an idiot who makes terrible decisions. His name is Jake, 25, male, and he deserves way better than what I put him through. We met at this house party last year, and I was immediately attracted to him. Jake's this sweet graphic designer who's just genuinely nice to everyone, the type of guy who remembers little things you mention and brings you soup when you're sick. Basically boyfriend material, which should have made me appreciate him more. For the first few months, everything was good, but I got bored pretty quickly. Jake was always so predictable and safe, never any drama or excitement, just this steady, reliable guy who wanted to build something real with me. Which sounds great in theory, but actually felt kind of suffocating to me. I was young and craving that wildness in my life. Anyways, the real issue started when Jake met my best friend Chloe. We've been tight since college, and she's always been the most important person in my life. She gets me in ways nobody else does, and we have this really intense friendship that I didn't want to give up for any guy. Chloe's naturally very affectionate and touchy with her friends, cuddly during movies, holds hands when walking, sleeps in the same bed during sleepovers, and honestly, I loved the attention. Having someone be that devoted to me felt amazing. She was my soul sister in every way. But when Jake met her, he immediately got weird about it. He started asking questions about our friendship and making comments about how close we were. I could tell he was threatened by how important Chloe was to me, which honestly made me kind of happy. Finally some emotion from this guy. Jake kept bringing up concerns about Chloe, but I enjoyed making him feel insecure about it. I'd be extra affectionate with her in front of him just to see his reaction. Sometimes I would even prioritize plans with her over plans with him. I just wanted to make sure he knew that my friendship with her came first. And any time when Jake would bring it up, I would tell him that he was being paranoid and jealous, and that if he couldn't handle me having a close female friend, then maybe he wasn't mature enough for a serious relationship. I was pretty brutal about it, actually. Literally made him feel stupid for having instincts that were completely right. Jake backed off after that, but I could tell it still bothered him. He'd get quiet when Chloe was around, or when I'd cancel our plans to hang out with her instead. But he stopped complaining because I'd made it clear I didn't want to hear it. This went on for months, and I was loving every minute of it. Having Jake be jealous made him seem more passionate and interesting. Having Chloe worship me while my boyfriend felt threatened was like this power trip that I couldn't get enough of. Chloe definitely picked up on the dynamic and started pushing boundaries more. She'd text me constantly when she knew I was with Jake. She started to show up uninvited when we were having alone time. One time, she even made comments about how she understood me better than he did. And instead of shutting it down, I encouraged it. I liked having two people compete for my attention. It made me feel special and desired in a way that just dating Jake hadn't been giving me. I felt like I was the it girl. I had this power over them that gave me so much adrenaline. I started complaining to Chloe about Jake all the time, how boring he was, how predictable, and that he never surprised me or did anything exciting. Chloe would listen and validate all my complaints. She would tell me I deserved someone more passionate and adventurous. Looking back, I was being horrible to Jake. He was trying his best to make me happy while I was actively working against our relationship, comparing him to some fantasy ideal and finding him lacking instead of appreciating what he actually brought to my life. The worst part is I knew Jake was a good guy. I could see how much he cared about me and how hard he was trying. But I took that for granted and focused on what was missing instead of what was there. I also knew that Chloe had feelings for me that went beyond friendship. It was obvious from the way she looked at me and touched me and got jealous when I talked about other people. But I obviously pretended not to notice because I liked the attention too much to address it. And then things got a bit out of hand during winter break when Jake went to visit his family for Christmas. I stayed in town to work and made plans to spend basically every day with Chloe. I explained to Jake that it was just easier than being alone, but really I was excited to have uninterrupted time with her. Chloe started staying over at my apartment every night. She said her roommate was being annoying, but I think she just wanted an excuse to be around me constantly. I let her because I enjoyed feeling that wanted and important. We'd stay up late drinking wine and talking about everything. Chloe would get more and more affectionate as the night went on. More touching, more compliments and comments about how perfect our friendship was. And I ate it up because it felt good. I started testing boundaries with her too. Sometimes wearing less clothes around the apartment, being more physically affectionate back, making comments about how nice it was to have someone who really understood me. I was basically flirting but telling myself it was just friendship. The guilt would hit me sometimes when Jake would text goodnight or send sweet messages while I was literally in bed with Chloe. But I'd push those feelings down and tell myself I wasn't technically doing anything wrong, just exploring my sexuality, right? Like in my head, I basically had this justification that because she was my best friend, all of this couldn't count as cheating. It was just me being messy and nothing more. What a joke. The night before Jake was supposed to come back, Chloe suggested we have one last girls' night. She brought expensive wine and we got pretty drunk while looking through old photos and talking about college days. Chloe started talking about how she'd always felt closer to me than anyone else, how no guy would ever understand me the way she did, how she wished we could just be together without outside interference. I was drunk enough to be honest, and told her I'd been thinking about her differently lately too. I told her that I was curious about what it would be like to be with a girl. I was bored with Jake and wanted something more exciting. Chloe kissed me, and I kissed her back immediately. Not because I was too drunk to know better, but because I wanted to. I'd been thinking about it for weeks, and this felt like the perfect opportunity to explore those feelings. We got physical that night, and it was intense and passionate in a way that my relationship with Jake had never been. All that build-up and tension finally getting released. I knew I was cheating, but I didn't care. It felt too good, and I was too selfish to stop. The next morning, I wasn't sorry at all. Chloe was talking about how amazing it was and how we should be together, and honestly, I was considering it. Jake was safe and boring, and Chloe was exciting and made me feel alive. But I also didn't want to give up the security of having Jake as backup. So I told Chloe we needed to keep it secret for now, while I figured things out. I needed time to process what it meant and decide what I wanted to do. Chloe wasn't happy about that, but agreed to wait. We made plans to meet up again later in the week to talk more about it. I was basically trying to have both relationships at the same time, which was completely selfish and unfair to everyone. Jake came back that afternoon, and I acted completely normal. Let him tell me about his trip and thanked him for the souvenir like nothing had changed. Inside, I was comparing him to Chloe and how boring he seemed after the intensity of the night before. Over the next 2 weeks, I kept seeing Chloe secretly. We'd meet up when Jake was at work and talk about our situation. Sometimes we'd hook up again because the physical chemistry was really good, and I was addicted to how wanted she made me feel. I was living this double life where I was the perfect girlfriend to Jake while having this passionate affair with my best friend. And honestly, I was enjoying every minute of it. The sneaking around made everything more exciting. Jake could tell something was different, but I was getting really good at lying to him. I'd make up stories about where I'd been or why I was in such a good mood. Tell him I was just happy he was back and that I'd missed him while he was gone. But I was also getting a bit careless. I'd forget to delete text messages from Chloe or would smell like her perfume when Jake came over. Little things that should have made me more careful, but instead just made me more confident that I could keep getting away with it. The truth is, I liked the thrill of almost getting caught. It made me feel powerful and clever, like I was outsmarting both of them. Jake for not figuring it out, and Chloe for thinking she could manipulate me when really I was using the situation for my own benefit. I started being mean to Jake in little ways too, rolling my eyes when he'd try to be romantic or making comments about how predictable he was. I wanted him to break up with me so I wouldn't have to be the bad guy, but I also didn't want to lose the security he provided. Looking back, I was basically torturing this poor guy who'd done nothing wrong except love me and try to build a good relationship. I was punishing him for being stable and kind while rewarding Chloe for being dramatic and manipulative. The whole thing came crashing down when Jake decided to surprise me one afternoon. He got off work early and came over with flowers and my favorite takeout. Probably because he could tell I'd been pushing him away and wanted to do something nice. Except I was home, and so was Chloe. And we were in my bed together completely naked after hooking up for like the third time that week. We'd been getting careless about when we'd meet up, and I guess I forgot Jake sometimes left work early on Fridays. Jake used his key to get in and walked straight to my bedroom to surprise me. Instead, he found me and Chloe tangled up together under my sheets looking guilty as hell. There was no hiding what we'd been doing or pretending it was innocent. Jake asked me point blank if I'd been cheating on him with Chloe. And at that moment, I had a choice. I could lie and try to gaslight him some more. Or I could finally be honest about what a terrible person I'd become. I chose honesty for once and told him everything. About that first night when he was visiting family. All the times we'd hooked up since then. How I'd been living a double life and enjoying it. I just sat there naked in my bed with my best friend right next to me, waiting for him to say something. He finally asked me why I'd put him through months of making him feel crazy for having legitimate concerns. Why I'd called him jealous and controlling when he was just trying to protect our relationship. I didn't have a good answer because the truth was I'd enjoyed making him doubt himself. I liked having that power over him and watching him struggle with feelings he couldn't quite name or prove. Jake didn't yell or call me names or anything like that. He just said he was done and that he'd come back for his stuff later. Then he left, and I realized I'd completely destroyed the best relationship I'd ever had for absolutely no good reason. Chloe thought she'd won, but I was furious with her for putting me in this situation, even though it was my fault as well. I told her this wasn't how I wanted Jake to find out, and that she'd ruined everything by being there when he showed up. We had a huge fight, and I kicked her out. The next few days, I tried desperately to fix things with Jake, texted him constantly apologizing and begging for another chance. Even showed up at his work, trying to explain that I'd made a mistake and wanted to work things out. But Jake was completely done with me. He'd given me so many opportunities to be honest with him, and I'd chosen to lie and manipulate instead. He said he couldn't trust someone who would gaslight him for months while doing exactly what he was worried about. I tried to make Chloe the villain in the story. I told people she'd seduced me and that I was confused about my sexuality. She'd manipulated both of us, and I was just as much a victim as Jake was. But that wasn't true, and deep down I knew it. I'd been an active participant in everything that happened. I'd chosen to cheat and lie and hurt someone who loved me. Chloe might have been manipulative, but I was the one in a committed relationship who decided to betray it. The worst part is realizing how good I'd had it with Jake, and how badly I'd treated him. He'd been nothing but patient and understanding while I was secretly planning ways to hurt him. He deserved so much better than what I gave him. Chloe and I tried to make things work for like a month after Jake left. But without him there as a common enemy, we had nothing. She was possessive and demanding, and I realized I'd never actually liked her as much as I liked the attention she gave me. When I told Chloe I'd made a mistake, she completely lost it, telling people I'd used her to cheat and then dumped her when it got inconvenient. I was this manipulative person who hurt everyone around me, which was actually pretty accurate. I had been a horrible person, so I couldn't even defend myself in any way. She also reached out to Jake and told him more details about our affair, stuff that was private and designed to hurt him even more. She was mad that her plan to steal me away hadn't worked, so she decided to make sure we could never get back together. That's when things went from bad to worse. See, Jake works in marketing and graphic design. He's really good at social media and knows how to craft messages that get attention, skills I'd never really thought about until he turned them against me. Jake didn't block me right away. Instead, he went on social media and exposed everything. Screenshots of all the times I'd told him he was being paranoid. Voice messages where I'd called him jealous and controlling. Then he made this whole Instagram story series. Not like obviously cruel, but just telling his side of what happened. How he'd tried to communicate concerns about my friendship and been shut down repeatedly. How I'd gaslit him for months while doing exactly what he was worried about. Jake didn't have to lie or exaggerate anything. He just let my own words and actions speak for themselves. And it was devastating because seeing it all laid out like that made it obvious how terrible I'd been to him. The posts went viral in our friend group and beyond. People were sharing them and commenting about what a manipulative person I was, how Jake deserved better, and how sorry they felt for him having to deal with my lies. But the real genius part was that Jake framed everything from the perspective of someone who'd been gaslit and manipulated. He talked about how confusing it was to have your reality constantly questioned, how isolating it felt to know something was wrong, but be told you were imagining it. Everyone could relate to that feeling of being made to doubt your own instincts. So instead of seeing Jake as some bitter ex trying to get revenge, people saw him as someone sharing his experience to help others recognize similar patterns. Jake also posted about the importance of trusting your gut when something feels off in a relationship, about not letting people make you feel crazy for having legitimate concerns. His posts became like relationship advice that thousands of people found helpful. Meanwhile, I looked like this textbook example of everything you shouldn't do to someone you claim to love. The manipulative girlfriend who cheats with the exact person her boyfriend was worried about. It was humiliating, but also completely accurate. I tried to respond and tell my side, but anything I said just made me look worse. There was no defending my actions when Jake had literal evidence of everything I'd done. No way to make myself the victim when the proof of my manipulation was right there. Jake took down the posts after a week, but the damage was done. Screenshots had been shared everywhere, and people had saved them. My reputation was completely destroyed, and everyone knew exactly what kind of person I was. The worst part was that Jake's revenge was entirely justified. He hadn't lied about anything or made me look worse than I actually was. He'd just shown people the truth about how I'd treated him and let them draw their own conclusions. I lost most of my friends because nobody wanted to be associated with someone who would do what I did to Jake. People I'd known for years started treating me differently or cutting me off entirely. My social life basically disappeared overnight. Work became horrible too because some of my coworkers had seen the posts. They'd look at me differently, and I could tell they were talking about me behind my back. I ended up quitting and finding a new job where nobody knew my story. About 2 months later, I found out Jake was seeing someone new, a girl named Sophia who worked at this coffee shop he went to. I stalked her Instagram, and she seemed perfect for him, sweet and genuine, and actually appreciated all the things about Jake that I'd taken for granted. Seeing them together was crushing. I lost someone who actually loved me because I was too selfish to appreciate what I had. Too addicted to drama and attention to value stability and kindness. Too immature to handle a healthy relationship without trying to sabotage it. Now I get to watch from the sidelines while Jake gives someone else everything I threw away. While he builds the life I could have shared if I hadn't been so destructive and selfish. The therapy I'm doing now is helping me understand that I have serious issues with commitment and boundaries. That I was attracted to the chaos and intensity of my situation with Chloe because it felt more exciting than the peace I had with Jake. My therapist says I probably have some kind of personality disorder that makes me crave drama and attention even when it's destructive. She's working with me on understanding why I make such selfish choices and how to actually appreciate good things when I have them. But it's hard work, and I'm not sure I'll ever be capable of working through it. I just keep getting worse day by day. I keep thinking about all the times Jake tried to communicate with me and I dismissed him. How patient he was with my defensiveness and manipulation. He kept trying to make our relationship work even when I was actively sabotaging it. The truth is, I never really loved Jake the way he loved me. I loved how he made me feel safe and secure, but I didn't love him enough to prioritize our relationship over my own selfish desires. I used him as a safety net while exploring other options. I thought I could have everything I wanted without consequences. Keep Jake's stability and love while also having Chloe's passion and intensity. Play both sides and see which one worked out better for me. But that's not how real life works. You can't treat people like backup options and expect them to stick around when you finally decide what you want. Jake figured out his worth and walked away from someone who would never appreciate him properly. Now Chloe's moved on too. She's dating some other girl she met through mutual friends and seems happy enough. Probably learned from our situation that she needs to find someone who's actually available instead of trying to steal someone else's girlfriend. And I'm here alone trying to figure out how to be a better person. My life has been completely destroyed. There's no one I can call at this hour who would listen to me rant. I mean, that's probably why I'm here telling strangers about what went down in my personal life. If I could go back in time and act differently, I would in a second. Losing Jake has been the biggest regret of my life. He never tried to control me or make me choose between him and Chloe. He just wanted me to acknowledge that her behavior was crossing lines and maybe set some boundaries. If I'd done that, we probably could have worked things out. Instead, I chose drama over peace, stability, and genuine love. Sophia gets to benefit from all the lessons he learned dealing with my toxic behavior. She gets a man who knows how to spot red flags and won't tolerate being gaslit about his own observations, who values himself enough to walk away from people who don't appreciate him. She gets Jake, who's learned to trust his instincts and communicate his needs clearly, who won't put up with being treated as second priority or having his concerns dismissed. All the growth that happened because he had to survive being with me. I destroyed 3 lives because I was too immature to either commit to Jake or break up with him honestly. Instead, I chose the most destructive path possible, and now I get to live with the aftermath. Some mistakes you can fix, but this isn't one of them. So yeah, that's my story. I'm the villain who completely ruined something good because I thought I deserved more than what I had, who chose temporary excitement over lasting love and now gets to live with that choice forever in this shitty apartment.